All right, welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. Give you a few seconds to get in. Can we good on the live?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have all the things. All right, so before we begin, let me let you all know that the Zoom is going to fill up.
Welcome, everyone.
Uh-oh,
Thank you for
Ken, you might have to go on mute.
Give you a few seconds to get in.
Thank you. So what's going to happen is it's going to fill up, and your council members and your chapter members are going to start telling you that they cannot get in. When they start with that, and they will start very soon, you're going to let them know that they can go to the NPHC YouTube page and also see it live. We're going to drop the link in the chat for you that you are welcome to share with your members. We've made some updates to our social media posts so that they know that they can get there as well. So just a few housekeeping things I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of while everyone is coming in.
Madam Parliamentary, I think we have one of the COP presidents here.
Okay, which president is that?
President David Turner.
Oh, fantastic. And Mr. Turner, as soon we're gonna have you bring greetings, so be prepared when we call on you. Sorry to let you know that on the fly. Just letting everybody come in for a second. And then Ken, give me a thumbs up when we're ready to go. I do know that there's a bit of a delay on the YouTube live. So whenever you hear it on the YouTube live, give me a thumbs up and then we'll go ahead and move forward. All right, Ken, so we're ready. And if you would, please welcome the NPHC National Program Chair, Mr. Kenneth Webb, to bring us our welcome and introductions and greetings this morning, or afternoon, I should say. Ken.
Good evening to all of you, our Divine Nine NPHC family. We are eager and excited to host this Parliamentarian Town Hall. We do honor our president, Mr. Michael Kinlock, and our leadership team, our board members who are here as well. We do recognize our Council of Presidents that's led by Councilman Stacy N.C. Grant, along with Frater Jimmy McNichol from Kappa Alpha Psi and Zeta Phi Beta, who lead this great work. To all of you who are assembled, to our COP council presidents who are assembled here, to all of you from all over the country in all these different regions, from the West Coast, the East Coast, the South, the North, the Midwest. We're just so happy to have you all here. As we said earlier, as you are watching and you're maxing out, this is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel, so be sure to follow that. Channel has been shared. It is also being aired live, but welcome to this event. We also thank our National Parliamentarian, Fashika, for leading this work and leading this effort. And I will now turn it back over to her. Fashika.
Thank you, Ken. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the occasion of the event this evening. So April is Parliamentary Law Month, and we thought it would make a perfect opportunity to get our favorite parliamentarians in the same place at the same time to discuss our favorite topic, our favorite thing to talk about, which is parliamentary procedure and how it can be used as a tool for great governance, not only in the NPHC councils, but of course in your chapters as well. The purpose of the town hall is to elevate the understanding and importance of parliamentary procedure as a leadership tool. Excuse me. Hosting with us this evening are some of the best parliamentarians in the world, if I do say so myself. So please welcome them. Those of you who are in the Zoom, we would love your reactions, just as we welcome the best parliamentarians you will ever meet. Speaking of which, I would also at this time, before we get started, welcome any of our COP members to bring greetings at this time. I do believe President David Turner is on with us today.
I am. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I won't be able to stay on very long, but definitely I think this is well needed and appreciated. And actually, on today of all days, we talk about parliamentary procedure, which one of its purposes is to protect the rights of the minority. And so I think that's very telling as we look at other scenarios that have played out today that don't protect the rights of the minority in our democracy. But I thank you guys for working with all of our chapters, all of our organizations on meeting efficiency, handling business property, and ensuring that we have adequate debate on issues, and that debate leads to a stronger decision making and stronger organization. So thank you for all the work that you guys do. I want to, of course, give a special shout out to my parliamentarian who's on tonight for keeping me straight, and again to all of you, thank you for the work that you do in your chapters and also guiding others and giving guidance as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, President Turner. Madam Secretary, were there any other members of the Council of Presidents on this evening that you can tell?
Not see anyone at this time, but I will let you know. Thank you.
Okay. Well, next, that leads us right into from one great president to another, to talk to us more about Parliamentary Law Month and just bring us greetings. I'd love to introduce to some and present to others, none other than the president of the National Association of Parliamentarians, Mrs. Mona Calhoun, professional registered parliamentarian. Good afternoon or good evening, Madam President, and thank you so much for being with us.
Good evening, everyone. I raised my hand, so hopefully my little circle is in green and you all can see me as I bring these greetings. But it is so good to see so many familiar faces on this distinguished panel. On behalf of the National Association of Parliamentarians, Board of Directors, and members, it is a privilege to extend our warmest greetings to each of you who have dedicated your time, expertise, and passion to strengthening the organizations you serve. We are especially glad to gather in the month of April, which the National Association of Parliamentarians has designated as Parliamentary Law Month by adoption of a standing rule, which can be found on NAP's website. February 19th, 2026 marked the 150th anniversary of the publication of Robert's Rules of Order, first published in 1876 by then Major Henry Martin Robert. What began as a modest practical guide of fewer than 200 pages written by an Army engineer has grown into the most widely used parliamentary authority in the United States, governing the meetings of church groups, nonprofit boards, civic organizations, school boards, professional societies, and yes, fraternities and sororities. 150 years later, the foundation remains unchanged: fairness, order, and the protection of every member's voice. NAP's observance of Parliamentary Law Month is an annual call to reflect on that legacy, to educate our communities, and to renew our shared commitment to fair and inclusive deliberation. What better way to honor that spirit than with a panel of parliamentarians from the Greek letter community gathered to examine how these principles live and breathe within your own organizations. The Greek letter community has a proud and enduring tradition of structured governance, shared values, and member-driven decision-making. Parliamentary procedure is the backbone of that tradition, ensuring that every voice is heard, every decision is fair, and every meeting reflects the will of the members, not the preferences of a few. Your willingness to examine how parliamentary rules function within our organizations and to share those insights openly speaks to your commitment to that tradition. We believe deeply in the power of partnership. The Greek community and the parliamentary community share more common ground than may be immediately apparent. Both are rooted in the belief that how we govern ourselves reflects who we are. We look forward to learning from our panel discussion this evening and to exploring ways we can support our organizations, our members, and our leadership development in the years ahead. Thank you so much for this opportunity to bring you greetings.
Thank you, President Calhoun. That was fabulous. We really appreciate you being here, and your support as the national president of NAP is invaluable. Most of the members you see here highlighted are members of NAP, and so we're thrilled that you are here with us today. So thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so without further ado, I'm getting ready to do a quick roll call. When you hear your parliamentarian's name, please make sure you light up the chat and the reactions with the appropriate colors. I will introduce them to you in founding order. So first, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to present to some and introduce to others Adrian Stratton, CPPT, PRP. He is the General Parliamentarians of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Good evening, Adrian, and thank you so much for being here.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Next, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my parliamentarian, the great Martha Perrine Beard, professional registered parliamentarian, international parliamentarian of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Ms. Beard, thank you so much for being here. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Next, please welcome, I'd like to introduce to some and present to others, my dear friend, great parliamentarian, Vernon Tony Gray, professional registered parliamentarian, national parliamentarian of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Good evening, Tony. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And next, one of my favorites, the great Freddie L. Colston, professional registered parliamentarian, national parliamentarian of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Hello, Mr. Freddie. Thank you for being here.
Yo, thank you for having me.
Next, I'd love to introduce to some and present to others another dear friend of mine, Mr. Elliot Rogers, professional registered parliamentarian, international parliamentarian of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Welcome, Elliot. Thank you so much for being here. Next, I'd like to introduce to some and present to others another dear, dear, dear parliamentarian in our community, Mrs. Linda Edwards, international parliamentarian of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Welcome, Miss Linda. Thank you so much for being here. They just turned the chat blue and white, completely blue and white right now.
Right.
So thank you so much for being here, Miss Linda. Next, please welcome, as I introduce to some and present to others, another great friend and another great parliamentarian, my dear friend, Mrs. Wanda Nelson, National Board Parliamentarian of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Sorry about that, Miss Wanda. I got my order mixed up, but baby, Miss Wanda is one of the best. Make no error. Thank you for being here, Miss Wanda, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Next, I'd love to introduce to some and present to others another great, I hope you're picking up on the pattern here, another great, fantastic, outstanding, wonderful parliamentarian, yet another friend, Ms. Tahir Thomas Kinsey, registered parliamentarian, international parliamentarian of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. Tahir, thank you so much for being
Thank you.
here.
Thank you for having me.
And last and most certainly not least, it's a pleasure to introduce to some and present to others yet another great parliamentarian among us, Mr. Kenya Richardson L., registered parliamentarian, national parliamentarian of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity, Incorporated. Welcome, Kenya. Thank you so, so much for being here. It is an honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Ow, ow.
And then, of course, I do recognize that I did not introduce myself. My name is Fashika, and it's a great honor and pleasure to serve as your national parliamentarian of the National Pan-Hellenic Council. So thank you all so much for being here, and thank you to all of the attendees for being here. Before I move on, there are a number of NPHC National Executive Board of Directors are on. Thank you all for being here. Many of our area coordinators are with us this evening. Thank you all for your work and the great things that you're doing. Thank you to our alumni chair and our collegiate chair. Just thank you to all of the support that we have and our marketing team this evening. This took a lot of work from a lot of people. It was a heavy lift. So thank you to everyone who was involved in making this event happen. So now that we have our introductions, we will begin. We'll have a bit of a kind of a town hall where I will ask our parliamentarians some questions that I've kind of predetermined. And then once we have done that, we'll go in maybe about 30 or 40 minutes in that vein. And then after that, we will take questions from the members that you may have for our parliamentarians this evening. So the first question, easy question, get us eased in. Want to hear from everyone on this, and we will try to go in founding order just to make the rotation easier to keep up with. So Adrian, that means we're coming to you first. Tell me why you became a parliamentarian, or if it's more interesting, how you became the general parliamentarian of Alpha Phi Alpha. Tell us about your journey to the top.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be first and to go first. To all of my brothers on the call, thank you. I'm getting a lot of messages. And for all of the NPHC family, it's a pleasure to be with you. What inspired me to become a parliamentarian was to be of service, to really help. I believe that I'm unique in that my actual General President Lucien J. Metellus, actually offered a NAP training at one of our regional conferences when he was a regional vice president. And I was able to sit for the membership examination. And I was able to provide service in that way through becoming a member and then credentialed and then to service my fellow brothers. So that's the journey, and it's a pleasure to continue serving. I was appointed by General President Lanzer, who some of you may know, back in 2021, and I continue to serve on the board and support President Metellus.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adrian. Martha Perrine Beard, will you tell us how you got started in parliamentary procedure, or how you ended up as the international parliamentarian of Alpha Kappa Alpha? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Right. Thank you so much, Fashika. This is my second administration in serving as the international parliamentarian for Alpha Kappa Alpha. I was first appointed by our 29th president, Dorothy Buchanan Wilson. Dorothy was my mentee, and when she was elected national president, in Alpha Kappa Alpha, we elect our presidents 4 months in advance so that they have a chance to really prepare for their role. So when she was elected, she said to me, I know you have a passion about parliamentary procedure. I'd like for you to be the international parliamentarian under my administration. And even though I had the passion, I thought if I was going to be the international president, then I needed to have the credentials that go with that role. And as a result, in the 4 years that she was preparing to be international president, I was preparing to be the international parliamentarian. So during that 4-year period, I did the exam to join NAP, and I also did all of the work to be credentialed as an RP and a PRP. And then for the current president, I was asked to also serve as her parliamentarian.
Thank you, Miss Martha. And I've of course known you the longest. I think of all of you, you're probably the one I've known the longest. So thank you so much again for being here. Next, we'd love to hear from Vernon Tony Gray, professional registered parliamentarian. Tony, how did you get started in parliamentary procedure, or how did you end up as the national parliamentarian for Omega Psi Phi? What was your journey?
Well, it became because I had questions. There was a situation that I had a question about, and I sought to answer the question. And that's how I found NAP. And subsequently, just during my studies, as I learned, I wanted to help out a lot more of my organization in terms of what we were doing and what needed to be corrected a little bit. And I accidentally became a RP. And then I accidentally became a PRP. But it's the learning, the journey of learning it, because Robert's Rules has an answer for everything. It has an answer for everything. So that's what I preach. That's what I teach. And I still continue on that journey to try to learn those answers to questions that sometimes are baffling to my organization and with clients that I serve. So I just continue on that path. And through my journey, answering questions, GB 42, Grand Bossless 42, Ricky Lewis, who I have known since I have crossed into the fraternity, as he rose up and was asking me questions through the years, he just brought me along with him. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tony, so much for that, for sharing with us. Next, Mr. Freddie L. Colston, professional registered parliamentarian. How did you get started in parliamentary procedure? And I'm sure there's an outstanding story of how you became the national parliamentarian of Kappa Alpha Psi. Tell us about your journey, Mr. Freddie.
Well, my journey began in my chapter meeting, the Hyattsville Landover, Maryland Alumni Chapter, and we invited a distinguished lady in to give us a speech on parliamentary procedure. Her name was Betty Tunstall, and she came in, and I just was engrossed with her. So I joined the group, which is called the Sawwell Unit, and I was there for 1 year. 1 year. And there was a lot of seasoned ladies who was there. And so we can ready to have our meeting, we have our election. And Betty told me to go out and get a chair. When I came back in, I was the president of the unit. I said, y'all lost your mind. She said, no, we want to teach you. In order to teach you, we must put the gavel in your hand in order to teach you and to enlighten you. So they were very constructive. So when I would come in to meetings as a president, I did not mind messing up because they would tell me the correct way of doing this. So I was so excited that one of the convention, Brother Robert L. Harris was our grand polemarch. And I saw something was going on before the meeting got started. And I told him who I was. And I said that you may need to make this correction. He made the correction, needs to sit there, you're my parliamentarian. So I said, okay. So he appointed his parliamentarian. And ever since then, I've been filtered down. I've been giving different workshops to different organizations to make sure they understand what their rights are. And I've been trying to instill into different organizations that if you want to be a good president, you must let the members know what their rights are. They don't have to ask you what their rights are. You should be able to tell them what their rights are, inform them. So that's how I got involved in being a parliamentarian. Robert Rules of Order that I love to death. That's the reason why.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Mr. Freddie. All right, Wanda Nelson, PRP, tell us how you got started as a parliamentarian And an interesting story about how you became the national board parliamentarian for Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Absolutely. My journey started long ago, long ago. I started in Howard County, Maryland, helping a lot of youth organization write their bylaws for youth programs. And so I became passionate about the rules, exactly all of the rules that when each of their bylaws, what members could do, what members could not do. I wanted to make sure that all members' rights were protected. We have the right to be heard. And so I became very passionate over the years to dig deeper and deeper into parliamentary procedure. Because initially I thought, I don't need to be a professional parliamentarian. I know Robert's Rules of Order. And so I continue to say, if I'm going to take this serious and to make sure that I'm sharing correct information with members of any organization, that I needed to continue to pursue my education of parliamentary procedure. So over the years, I continued to stick with it. I wanted to make sure, again, going to any meeting, whether it was a church meeting, if it's a chapter meeting, if it's other organizational meetings, that if Robert Rules of Order was used, that it was used correctly. And so as I continued to educate myself, and then I, of course, had a very good mentor who also pushed me, that is a past national president of NAP. She continued to mentor me, to push me towards obtaining the RP. I got the RP in 2013 and my PRP in 2016. And under a wonderful leadership of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, our 26th national president appointed me as the national board parliamentarian. I have since then continued to serve our sorority in training workshops, as well as on the national board of directors as the meeting parliamentarian. I love it. It's my passion. And just like many of us that's on this call, I think we're going to live it forever. We are it's just a passion of ours. We're so passionate about it. So that is how my journey through parliamentary procedure continued on until today.
Wanda, thank you so much. At times I could barely see you. They were sending so many red hearts across the screen.
Uh-oh.
I mean, they are serious about their parliamentarian, baby, as they should be. So thank you so much for sharing. Look at this.
You.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. Next, Elliot Rogers, registered parliamentarian. Tell us how you got started in your parliamentary journey and how did you end up as the international parliamentarian of the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated?
Yes, the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Thanks, Rashika. I became a parliamentarian just because I understand that structure protects the mission and ensures that every brother has a fair voice. As a chapter president for 16 years, I saw the danger of chaos, right? So I wanted to make sure that we had clarity in our procedure, wanted to make sure that we worked to prevent confusion in our chapter operations. And while I was chapter president in San Antonio, I met a young man named Edmund K. Miles, PRP, who is currently the Texas State Association of Parliamentarians. And he held me to account as a chapter president and showed me the value of being a credentialed parliamentarian. And so through that commitment, I became a registered parliamentarian. And then that led to my appointment as the international parliamentarian. I've always been Team Turner. And so Brother David Turner and I go way back, our 37th international president. And so I really enjoy being his advisor and sitting on the general board. But thank you for the opportunity to share and look forward to the rest of the evening. Thanks, Ashika.
Thank you, Elliot. Next, Miss Linda, tell us how you got started studying parliamentary procedure and something interesting about how you became the international parliamentarian of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
Thanks, Bashika. And it's an interesting story, too. Well, let me just say that I'm a student of Roberts, and I'm a student of governance and good governance. Professionally, I was policy and procedures. It's all the way. That was that for 38 years. That was my job, policy and procedure. So I am a governance structured person, and I like structure. My journey to where I am today as the international Phi for Zeta Phi Beta sorority is an interesting one. We got this thing, when Zeta calls, you answer. I was hesitant because as much as I like the governance structure, I'm like, I don't know if I want to take that leap. But sadly enough and happily enough, and after our boule in 2022, our organization, because of our governance structure and because of our rules, we were left without a parliamentarian.
Mm.
So in September, following that boule, I got calls all over the place. You should do this. You should do this. And I kept saying, no, no, not me. No, I don't want to do it. That's just too much work. My sorors are crazy. I just don't want to do it. Let's just be honest about it. We all know it. We all got them, right? And I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I threw my name into the hat. And guess what? Our board of directors, they elected me to be the international file actor. So I am now serving in my second. And the funny thing, the sisterhood and me had the nerve to go for re-election, and they voted me back in. So I'm on the last leg of my journey, but not the last leg of my desire for structure, my desire for governance and for good governance, and to make sure that we are doing things correctly, as well as that we are protecting the rights of our members and that every voice is respected and heard. That's my journey.
Thank you, Miss Linda. But Miss Linda said get somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
All right, next. Tahir Thomas Kinsey, registered parliamentarian, international parliamentarian of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. Please tell us a little bit about how you started your journey in parliamentary procedure and how did you become the international parliamentarian?
Thank you, Fashika. It started when I was a newer member of my organization, and it started with a desire to learn more about how my organization works and to understand the why. So I first joined the Northeastern Region Recommendations Committee. That's the committee of change where chapters submit desired changes for the region to vote on. And at the time, that was chaired by Dr. Daciel Sewell. And I learned a lot about the process of change, which involves some parliamentary procedure. And then I was appointed by Vanetta Cheeks Reeder, who is a past NPHC president, to serve as chair of that very committee that I had joined. 2 years later, I was appointed by her as the regional parliamentarian for the Northeastern region. At that time, Dr. Frances Jackson was the international parliamentarian, and I said, can you mentor me about this parliamentarian thing? I need to learn it. And she said to me, join the NAP. That was the first time I had heard of the NAP. She said, join the NAP and get back to me once you've joined. Say less. I joined. I passed the membership exam with 100%, emailed her back and said, I'm a member of the NAP. And from there, developed a wonderful mentoring relationship. The more I learned, the more I realized how much more there was to learn. Mm-hmm. Later, Marika Harris became the Syntaxis, the regional director. She appointed me to continue as the regional parliamentarian, and I served under her, continuing to learn, teaching workshops, growing. And then years later, she became International Grand Basilisk of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority, which she is right now. And she appointed me to serve as her international parliamentarian. So that is my story. Lots of mentors, lots of great shoulders that I stand on in this role. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you for bringing up the name Dr. Frances Jackson. Shout out to Frances Jackson. She is truly one of the greats. She is formerly or one of the past national parliamentarians of the National Panhellenic Council as well. And she did it for a very long time. And there is no me without her, and it sounds like there may be no Tahir without her either. So thank you so much for sharing your journey, and shout out to Frances Jackson. I hope that she is around, and make sure she gets her flowers while she's still with us, because she's one of the greats. And then next, I'd like to introduce, or I think I already introduced, but hear from, can you tell us a little bit about how you began studying parliamentary procedure, and how did you become the national parliamentarian for Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated?
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having me. My journey in parliamentary procedure began by way of the United States Navy. I served 20 years on active duty, um, served in a number of capacities, but within those capacities, I stumbled on something within our bylaws that said that our parliamentary authority was Robert's Rules of Order. So that piqued my curiosity, because one of the things that I also noticed is that sometimes we weren't adhering to Robert's Rules of Order. Um, I I retired in 2017 and looked to further my education in parliamentary procedure. And my journey began with a Google search. I looked in the state of New York, the greater metro New York City area, and tried to find the most active unit of NAP within the area. At that time, 2018, the most active unit that I could find was the Parliamentarians of Brooklyn, New York. Um, and I joined to learn a little bit more about Robert's Rules of Order, about parliamentary procedure. I didn't have any intent on credentialing, but due to the astute leadership of the unit president at the time, Rob Robinson, PRP, and my cohort leader, uh, man, I don't want to not give individuals their flowers. Diana Duncan, PRP, who was also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I learned some things about Roberts, and along with other astute, very astute members of NAP, gave me some insight, a lot of insight. I shouldn't even minimize their impact, but gave me insight into the nuances and particulars about parliamentary law and about parliamentary procedure. One of those individuals is on the panel, Brother Adrian Stratton, PRP, who I learned a tremendous amount of insight of Roberts from, along with other professional registered parliamentarians of the time who took time out of their schedules to share some thoughts as it related to Robert's Rules of Order. In terms of becoming the national parliamentarian for Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated, I serve under the 24th administration under our international Grand Polaris, Orlando Grant, and it all began with a recommendation. I filled out the application, passed the interview, and here I am. But thank you for the question.
Thank you, Kenya. First of all, thank you for your service. Second, thank you for mentioning yet another outstanding parliamentarian that I want to stop and give a quick shout out to, none other than Mr. Robinson. Rob is yet another amazing parliamentarian, also former national parliamentarian for the National Panhellenic Council. Heard nothing but great things about that brother, and I'm glad that he was part of your journey in parliamentary procedure. So now, for those of you keeping score at home, I hope you heard all 9 of them say the same thing. They started because they were curious about parliamentary procedure, which led them into further study, and the way they became rose to the positions that they are in now is because someone saw them somewhere serving and offering their knowledge, and they had relationships in place. So those of you who are interested in such positions as the ones that our esteemed guests hold, please make sure that you keep that in mind as you are going through your own personal journeys. So thank you all so much for sharing. And now that we've broken the ice a little bit, the questions. So first, I do want to start with Adrian, and then I'm going to also toss to Martha on this first question. How does parliamentary procedure protect the mission and legacy of Alpha Phi Alpha?
Thank you for the question. A really timely one, a really good one. Without fairness, there's a breakdown in trust. And I firmly believe there's a breakdown in the connections that keep all of our organizations going. When individuals feel that the rules aren't fairly applied or that there's a moving target, that creates friction. One of my favorite things to speak about with my clients and with my brothers is that when the rules are clear, there's very little need for interpretation. If anyone studied the principles of interpretation in Robert's Rules of Order, there's 8 of them, but one of them speaks, and I'm paraphrasing here, to the fact that when there's no ambiguity, there's very little reason for interpretation. So I do think by having clear rules and helping our organizations maintain clear rules, we continue our long and historic legacies.
Thank you so much. That's a great insight on that. Martha, same question for you. How does parliamentary procedure protect the mission and legacy of Alpha Kappa Alpha?
Well, I think the prior speaker said it perfectly. It's so important that we're fair in terms of how we are governing our organization. And that's not only from the national organization, but down through our chapters. So we may not have leaders at the chapter level who are credentialed parliamentarians, but it's important that they understand why it's important to be fair in terms of what you do in your chapters. And in that regard, in Alpha Kappa Alpha, at every regional conference, at every boule, which is our international convention, we make sure that parliamentary procedure is taught, because we know that not everybody is going to want to go and tackle a 700-page booklet to become credentialed either as an RP or a PRP. But it's important that they all know the basic rules, because we can be credentialed at the international level, but we must be mindful that our chapters understand the importance. And that's why we need to make sure that they're taught as well, because we can do everything we can to be fair at the national level. But if our chapters are going rogue, then that is going to be a problem for us.
Yes, ma'am. It seemed like you must have struck a nerve, Miss Martha. Everybody is putting reactions in there. I also want to get perspective on this from Freddie Colston. Mr. Freddie, tell us, how does parliamentary procedure help protect the mission and legacy of Kappa Alpha Psi?
When you have trust in your leadership, and when you can believe that they will let you know when things are going wrong. For example, if you're in a meeting and they should have the confidence in their presiding officers to let them know that I don't know what I'm doing. I hope you will inform me on what to do. Sometimes a presiding officer will say, and I'm sure y'all will agree with this, if they don't ask, I won't tell. Mm-hmm. You can never have that attitude. You should always inform the brothers and the sisters of what are your options. These are your options. You don't have to agree with the presiding officer. You can appeal from the decision of the chair, and this is how you proceed in doing that. You got to get to the attitude that it is not what I want, it is what the body wants, and you will let the body know what the options are to that effect.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Freddie. Ms. Wanda, I have a different question for you.
Okay.
In your opinion,
I'm sorry, Fashika. If
Yes,
I
ma'am.
may, because I would like to also
Oh,
respond to that
absolutely. Come
question.
on. Yes,
Because I
ma'am.
also had a thought in regards to protecting the mission and legacy. And what I would like to contribute here is I think it's very critical that each one of us understand the importance of the strong parliamentary governance, and that we all have a corporation that we must protect. Each organization is a corporation. We need to look at that structure as that. And it's the fairness and transparency that we are protecting, managing the risk of our organization as well as our stakeholders. So when I look at the, just the overall governance, I just feel like, one, it is a corporation, a business that we do truly have to protect as each one of us. And all of our organizations that come together under this D9 is really important that I say that because I truly believe that. And so I just wanted to also share that.
No, that's a great question, and it actually leads us into the next question I was getting ready to ask you, and then I'm coming to Tony with the same question.
Well, I wanted
Um,
to answer that one, Tashika.
you want to do that one too? Okay, you know what? Everybody want to do that. Well, go ahead and
Everybody want to do that one.
talk to me about it, Tony. What?
I have a perspective about that. I
Yes,
think
sir.
parliament procedure is everywhere. Okay. Some people put parliament procedure in terms of motions. Parliament procedure is bigger than motions. Parliament procedure goes all the way to the Supreme Court. Okay. All the way down to your customs. And what that means at the same time is you got to think bigger than just a motion. You got to think about how your meetings are conducted and how people sometimes get discouraged about how your meetings are being handled, and that in turn affects retention. That affects retention of our organizations, because people don't want to go to meetings, people don't want to participate because things are so out of control sometimes that, and because we're limiting things, because we're limiting things only to motions. But parliament procedure also talks about the responsibilities of officers. Okay, when people understand what they're supposed to be doing, they're not taking money. They're not abusing their power. So I think it's bigger than just emotion. And sometimes we lose sight of that. So as we go through our organizations and we're doing things properly, we actually maintain our membership. We maintain the people that we need to conduct our mission. So that is what I try to preach a lot of times. And I just hope everybody's listening to that.
They are. In fact, in the chat, they said you're making a very good point. They say you preaching now. Somebody said preach, bruh. So yeah, no, they feel you on that. All right. So let's see. My next question is what what are some tools that every officer, particularly the presiding officer, but every officer must have in order to preside well and more importantly, to preside over effective, efficient, orderly, and fair meetings. I'm going to start on this one with Elliot. Elliot, what are some tools that every presiding officer, every officer really needs to have in order to be effective?
Yeah, great question, Fasika. I think, the most important thing is a good agenda, right? I think the agenda is the roadmap of our meetings. Again, I talked about earlier about turning, chaos into clarity. Well, that roadmap is the first thing that you need to be able to do that. Also, you need to understand motions and their precedents, right? We always talk about, as parliamentarians, proper terminology. So having a presiding officer that understands motions, understands their precedents, and how to drive decision making. Also, I think understanding voting and the different methods that are available to be able to administer a vote is also something that every officer or presiding officer should have. And then finally, in a nice, well put together 3-ring binder, they need to have their script, they need to have their bylaws, and they need to have Robert's Rules of Order. And if they have all of that, then the meeting should go fine. Thank you.
Perfect. I want y'all to notice that that Elliot said that the presiding officer's job is to drive the decision-making process, not make all of the decisions. So I hope the presiding officers who are here with us this evening heard that part. Miss Linda, I'm coming to you next. With the same question. What are the most critical parliamentary tools that every chapter officer should have in order to run an effective meeting and also make sure the meeting is fair?
So I just have to piggyback on what Brother Rogers was saying, because that is exactly right. But most importantly, they need a good parliamentarian. You said we're going to have fun this evening, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm gonna bring
Yes,
a little
ma'am.
fun here. They need to have, and they need that personality as well. Okay, let's just put it all together, because how you project and how your members see you is going to make all the difference in the world on how that agenda gets through, how those motions get through. I always say that, it's like dressing is attitudinal. So is tone is attitudinal, and you got to come with a great attitude, and it's got to be a great tone. But again, the other thing, come with a sense of fairness. Treat your members with respect. It's all in a nutshell. Besides those tools, and you got to know what's in those governing documents. You got to lead with authority, and because the members have to be able to respect that you know what you're doing, and that they can follow you. Nobody's going to follow you if you don't know what you're doing.
Oof. Miss Linda, you might ought to say that again. No one's gonna follow you if what now, Miss Linda?
If you don't know what you're doing, and like,
Yes, ma'am.
can't follow her.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. All right,
Hey,
Tahir,
but
I'm coming to
Tashika,
you. Yes. Oh, yes, ma'am. Miss Martha, I
no,
almost called you something.
no, I just wanted to add to that. We're all talking about, and rightfully so, the importance of the parliamentarian being knowledgeable and all of that. But I think those on the call tonight should understand that the parliamentarian is there as the advisor to the presiding officer, because a lot of times at meetings, they want to talk to us and tell us, ask us for answers to questions, but they need to understand that all questions go to the presiding officer. So we may be knowledgeable and we may know more than maybe the presiding officer, but that person is still the one responsible for the meeting. And we would have to look to the presiding officer before we can give advice.
And also, if I may add to
Yes,
that
sir.
statement as well, the presiding officer is a parliamentarian to the body. All decisions come through the presiding officer, which means that you must be a student of parliamentarian procedure. Also, Roberts teaches us as well, where do your parliamentarians sit? A chair should be assigned next to your presiding officer. So as discreetly as possible, they can slide a note to that individual. The person can lean down or lean up. But when you have your parliamentarian some distance from you or in the audience, that's telling me that you're not a student of parliamentarian procedure. And it give a so you don't have the knowledge, and you go try to convince the body that you have the knowledge, and the body already know that you do not have the knowledge. And the worst thing can happen is when you have a presiding officer presiding, and you just start feeling so sorry for that person because they do not have the skills that you feel they should have to preside over a meeting because they're not a student of parliamentarian procedure. They got that position, but they didn't realize, you know what, I got to preside over this meeting. And some of us brothers and sisters can be very unkind because we can see if that person is weak, we can start putting out questions and making certain statements and know that they do not have a clue. And in closing, it is bad if a presiding officer may fake an illness to leave the dais for someone else to take his spot because he knows the next meetings will come up with some procedures that he has no skills in carrying out.
Oh,
So you
wow.
must be a student of parliamentary procedure if you could be an officer.
Absolutely, Mr. Freddie. Thank you so much for making that point, because so many people run for president because they have a great vision and they have great ideas, and that's perfect. No one ever runs for president because they want to preside over the meetings, when interestingly enough, that is the number one job. Usually in everyone's bylaws list for the president, the first thing is to preside over over the meeting. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Freddie. All right.
Well, if I
Okay,
may
come on, Tony.
interject, I absolutely agree with Freddie. Robert states, and you just mentioned the bylaws, but the Robert states, you should elect somebody who can preside for the ability to preside. And what we do, we tend to do a popularity contest. And the popularity contest, you get somebody in there and they cannot control the meeting. They cannot manage the meeting. They cannot facilitate the meeting as they're supposed to. So that's where we need to deviate from and recognize, well, it's not really deviate from it so much, but the persons that are running for these positions need to become a student and take on the responsibility of being the president and presiding the way they're supposed to. That is your job. I'm done.
Yes, sir. And I'm gonna repeat what Tony said because I just want to make sure the people in the back heard it. When you are electing a president, it shouldn't be about who is the most popular, who is the sweetest, who has the nicest smile, who is next in line. They should be chosen principally for their ability to preside over your meetings. I know we stepping on a few toes, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Uh, to hear what does leadership look like for a parliamentarian who must advise, but at the same time you have to stay neutral. But you are most certainly a leader. So how does one balance that responsibility of staying neutral, but also leading and doing an effective job for your president and your organization?
I think I'd like to address that.
Mr.
When
Fred?
we're taking on this role as a parliamentarian, we are already giving up our right to speak, to debate, to vote, and to realize that we're totally neutral. Our job is to make sure that the presiding officer looks good from the dais. The key point is you got to listen, presiding officers. You have to listen to your parliamentarians. You have to listen. It is not what you want, it is what the body is going to give you and what the body wants. You come with the attitude, well, I want this, I want this. Well, how do you approach your body with those items that you want the body to vote on? You come in like a bull in a china cabinet. And what happens then? Everybody's turned off, so you don't get what you want. You just have to be a student of parliamentary procedure and realize it is what the body wants that is going to happen. So you got to know how to have charisma, how to talk to someone, how to speak to someone, how to make them feel good and let them know that this is what is best for you, not what is best for me.
Thank you, Mr. Freddie. To hear, same question. What does leadership look like for a parliamentarian who must advise as a leader, but also has to remain neutral? How does one go about balancing that responsibility?
So neutrality means advising on the process, not the outcome. So a parliamentarian can advise the presiding officer on how a motion must be handled, but they can't direct how the body votes. Maintaining respect for elected officers is not the same as deferring to them when they are procedurally incorrect. So a well-delivered private correction before a meeting is preferable as opposed to letting the error happen during a meeting and a point of order being called. The parliamentarian's leadership and authority comes from knowledge of the rules, not from holding the office. So that distinction must be clearly understood by both the parliamentarian and the officers that they advise.
Perfect. What a great answer. Kenya, I'm coming to you next with the same question. What does leadership look like for parliamentarians or people serving as parliamentarians with the understanding that they are leading, yes, but must remain neutral also and must advise the presiding officer? It's the best way to go about balancing that.
Well, first, thank you for the question. Simply stated, by continuing to remain impartial and remaining open to all membership for questions as it relates to parliamentary procedure. The role of the parliamentarians is to advise the presiding officer when questions arise concerning governance. However, by fostering relationships throughout the organization can create trust as long as the relationships remain impartial. Our RONR states the parliamentarian's role during a meeting is purely an advisory and consultative one, since parliamentary law gives to the chair alone the power to rule on questions of order, to answer parliamentary inquiries. So as long as the parliamentarian remains impartial and neutral, I just think in that shows the leadership abilities of the said parliamentarian.
Thank you so much, Ken. What a fantastic answer. Yes, ma'am. Miss Wanda, you want to jump in on that? Oh, you're on mute, Miss Wanda.
Thank you. I ditto all of what was just said. Also, I would like to add is that part of the parliamentarian's responsibility, especially for those that are credentialed, are professional responsibility to make sure that we do follow, our professional ethics, that we have the responsibility as parliamentarians that we must, part of our responsibility is to advise. So in advising, we want to make sure that we follow the rules, that we are not going to, in essence, deviate from things that just because of who may be in office. So we have a responsibility, as I mentioned, stepping into the role as a parliamentarian to be impartial, but most of all, to make sure we uphold the integrity of that position.
Perfect. Well said. Very well said. Adrienne, I'm coming to you next. Before I get you started, I have just been made aware that your national president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is here with us today. Mr. Lucien, sorry we didn't get to have you bring greetings earlier, but would you like to bring greetings at this time?
Hey, good evening, everyone. I won't be long because I don't want to give my parliamentarian lose any more hair than I already made him lose. But I couldn't miss the opportunity to jump on this call because Brother Stratton will tell you that I used to have his job. I was general parliamentarian for 4 years between 2013 and 2017 for the fraternity. And so I understand the importance of the parliamentarian. What I would advise everybody that's on this call, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history, but I want to just make sure that you hear me clearly. Parliamentarians are crucial because they see everything that everybody else doesn't see. They see things that go on in meetings, they see personalities, they see a lot of things when they're doing their job that everyone else doesn't see. Parliamentarians, right, they generally don't speak at chapter meetings and different things like that, but they observe all the moving pieces and they're so important in terms of your organization and how they function. What I will also say is that they also cast a wide vision. They help with our policies, our amendments, different things of that nature, and they help move the organization's agenda along. I'm very clear about that they are an important cog in the machine of any organization, not just D9, just an organization, period. And I always employ that, such to the fact that a couple of things that most a lot of people don't know, but most alphas don't know. Our first life member of the fraternity, Wilson Winters, was our national parliamentarian. He was our first life member for the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, but he was also our national parliamentarian and our longest serving national parliamentarian out of Philadelphia. So when you think that national parliamentarians can't have an impact, they definitely can. And my last piece of advice, I'm not trying to get in everyone's elections and everything else like that, but even when you're electing regional, district, international leadership, make sure they understand your Robert's Rules of Order, their Constitution and bylaws, most importantly, their Robert's Rules of Order, their Articles of Incorporation, and the policies and procedures of the organization. Because what I see a lot of times happens, and this happens across all organizations, not just NPHC, but what happens is someone comes in as a head, has the great vision, but doesn't realize there are a whole bunch of rules, regulations, and laws that existed before they got there. And then they think that they're going to make all these changes, but they can't do it because of the laws that are already in place. So make sure that whenever you elect somebody, they understand not only the vision they're casting, but can it be done under the current laws? And if the current laws don't allow it, do they even understand the process, how to change the law? So I think that those are the big things that, as we elect leaders, that parliamentarians are critically important for. Don't underestimate what your parliamentarians can do, because I've seen Brother Stratton do amazing things for this organization. He is an asset beyond his value. I truly appreciate his leadership and the things that he's done. And I know that he'll probably be late to our meeting. We have a board meeting in about 25 minutes. But we appreciate you, Brother Stratton. The fraternity appreciates your service. And we know that parliamentarians help lead the way. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased. I was a parliamentarian, like I said. I still am in my dreams. Some days I still think that way. But I do want to make sure that you all know that the Council of Presidents support all of you. I know that all my fellow NPHC presidents love the world of each of their parliamentarians, and I want to just say that publicly. And you may not be saying a lot during Boulé or international conventions and things of that nature or conferences, but we know that you are helping us plan the agenda and put the machine that works. So we thank you so much. And I'll end it there. And I want to just acknowledge, I believe I saw the president of NPHC on here, Fred Kinlock, but if we didn't, I want to just make sure that I acknowledge him in case he was here. All right, but thank you, everybody. I will be actually dropping off in like 4 minutes, but I appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you, President Metellus. Listen, if your president doesn't talk about you as a parliamentarian the way President Metellus talks about Adrian Stratton, then you're not doing it right.
Madam Fashika.
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, let me add that my president, my bossless, Grand Bossless 42, he wasn't able to get in the room. He's watching over YouTube, so you can give him an acknowledgement that he's here.
Hi.
But
hello. I'm sorry you
Let's
weren't
get
able
Ricky
to
in
get
here. What are we
in.
doing? We need Ricky. Let's get Ricky in
We
here.
absolutely need him in. Mr. Grand Bossless, please try the link again. If we have to put somebody out to get you in, we will do that.
I'm going to send it to him, Madam Secretary.
Madam National Secretary, if you
got
see
you.
him come in, please
I
bring it
got
to
you.
my attention so we can definitely hear from him for sure.
But also adding to the conversation about the parliamentarians' leadership.
Okay.
A parliamentarian at a meeting is a fly on the wall if everything goes well before the meeting. And the leadership of the parliamentarian is before the meeting. And what's incumbent upon our organizations and any organization out there is to recognize their how valuable they are in preparation for whatever meeting, convention, whatever it is beforehand. That's where the leadership of the parliamentarian comes into play. And if everything works out the way it should, the parliamentarian don't have to say a word, especially if you have a presiding officer as a student and they can properly preside. The parliamentarian is just sitting there paying attention and listening, just like the brothers, the fratters were saying on here earlier. So that leadership comes prior to the meeting. Their leadership comes also from the discipline they have. If they are as trained as we are, we don't butt in when we don't supposed to fit in, right? So we're not speaking up in the meeting when we're not called to speak. And we're pulling coattails when we need to pull coattails, but nobody hears our voice except the president. So that's where the parliamentarians' leadership, in my opinion, comes into play, is before the meeting, and it's incumbent upon us to recognize it and utilize that expertise that they have to help you be successful.
Thank you so much, Tony. Every time you speak, you step on some people's toes, because I know it doesn't happen in any of these non-organizations, but you'd be surprised how many parliamentarians are in chapter meetings, running the show and talking out of turn and things of that nature. So I'll move on. I'll move on. So the next question, Adrian, for real this time. I'm kind of wading in to the real stuff. Adrian, real quick, just give us one. Just give us one, because I know everybody else is getting ready to nod real hard and get ready to tell us what theirs is. Give us one of the most common parliamentary mistakes that comes across your desk as the general parliamentarian of Alpha Phi Alpha.
I would say, and greetings again, Brother General President, my brother, my friend. Good to hear your voice and good to have you on the call. He kind of alluded to it. It's elections. As I mentioned, the clearer we can be on the front end with how we elect our leadership and creating a fair and balanced process, the less issues we potentially have on the back end. So I would say election issues come up far too frequently than I would like. And I would implore us all to really look closely at the rules before the elections so that we can have good processes.
Thank you so much for that, Adrian. Martha, same question. What is the most common parliamentary problem, other than elections? Adrian already took elections, that comes across your desk as the International Parliamentarian of AKA? Oh, you on mute, sorry, Martha.
Did you all mute me? Okay.
There you go.
No, one of the most common ones is that chapters in the organization need to understand that decisions are made by the assembly, not a small subset that makes decisions and then tells the assembly of the chapter. So that's a common one that I'm always having to educate on.
Uh-oh. Listen to
Uh-oh.
that. That's for all 9 organizations. It is your chapter who makes the decision. It is not the responsibility of some small group of people to tell the chapter what to do. In fact, the chapter tell y'all what to do. Ain't nobody saying nothing. Oh, wait a minute. Miss Martha did just say it. So there you have it. There you have it. Freddie Colston, I'm coming to you next because I know you got a good one for me. One of the most common parliamentary mistakes that comes across your desk as the National Parliamentarian of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
When presiding officers do not understand what motion that is brought before the floor does not have to be recognized to do. Point of order, I appear from the decision of the chair. I call for the division. You don't have to be recognized for those motions. But the chair would say, well, since they didn't address the mic, I didn't recognize them. And that, for the Tony, you got to be impartial. You stay right there, and you don't show no facial expression of saying anything that's going to embarrass anybody else. So presiding officers do not understand what motion does not need to be recognized for it come before the chair. Excuse me, secondary motions.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Colson. Miss Wanda, what is the most common mistake that comes across your desk? You can't say elections, you can't say presiding, you can't say all
Absolutely
the other
not.
things.
Absolutely not. Well, I can share with everyone in terms of the chapters that I've seen is just the incorrect application of parliamentary procedures. And I say that because we have a number of members within chapters believe they understand the correct application of parliamentary procedure and trying to interpret what Robert says. Most of the times we hear from chapters, you sit in a meeting and you hear Robert said this or Robert said that, which they don't understand the real application of parliamentary procedure. So that is one that I will say within the chapters that I see is just trying to get them on board of the application, the correct application of how Robert parliamentary procedure is used.
Okay. And I didn't realize I was running out of time, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask the question to the remainder of our parliamentarians, the same question. Elliot, what is the most common parliamentary mistake? And this time, if you have it, how can they fix it? What is the mistake and how do they fix it?
Well, I think I've got 2. The first one is weaponizing parliamentary procedures. I mean, a lot of our seniors will use parliamentary procedures against younger members, and it's up to the chair to protect the rights of all members. The other one is bypassing bylaws in the name of tradition. So a lot of times customs and traditions gets in the way, and we need to continue to promote education and consistent enforcement in order to make sure that, again, members' rights are protected.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Miss Linda. Same question. What is the most common mistake that ends up across your desk that you haven't already heard yet?
Oh, well, you know what? Interesting enough, it's the committee chairs when they give their reports,
Yes,
and as soon
ma'am.
as they conclude, they the first thing they say, "Are there any questions?" They forgot who's managing the meeting. Okay, how do you fix it? So, of course, the nice presiding officer, the president, they'll say, "Hold on, one moment." And then they'll take the questions. Like, you're not controlling the meeting, but it's common. And I've seen it across every level, every single level.
Yes, ma'am, I believe you. And Tony, I'm coming back to you, but first, I do want to give you all an update. The fabulous Grand Basileus of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is with us at this time. President Ricky Lewis, thank you so much for being here. Would you like to give us greetings at this time?
Yes, ma'am. Did you call me fabulous?
Fabulous. That fantastic,
Hey,
amazing.
the bros called me a lot of things. They never called me fabulous.
Oh, well, they gotta do better. They gotta do better.
They got to do better. Tell Tony Gray and tell John Ball. They'll get the bros on. Good evening, everyone from Los Angeles. I got on a little early and it's sent me to the live stream. And Sister McClellan, you've done an outstanding job. I've been listening all evening. We certainly appreciate you. The good Lord got a seat in heaven for parliamentarians. I'm going to let that settle for a minute. Because for you all to be parliamentarians of this divine nine, all these strong leaders we have and all these members, it's more than a notion trying to keep track of all that. So I say kudos to you all. We thank you all. I'll be in Nashville to hang out with the Zetas. I'll certainly be in Tampa to hang out with the SG Rose. And I'm sure going to Las Vegas to hang out with Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I hope you all will come and join us in Cincinnati for our Grand Conclave. That'll be in July. But again, thank you all for your hard work. We appreciate you. Thank your families for allowing you to serve. As a leader of Omega Psi Phi, I know how important parliamentarians are. And I say thank you and I appreciate you. Sister McClellan, I'll yield back to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony. So since your president just called you out, it's your turn to tell us about some of the most common mistakes that you encounter and something that we haven't already heard. Because there's enough of them out there. And don't think just because one particular parliamentarian is saying it, that all 9 of them have not experienced it.
Oh,
They're being nice right now. I can tell you that for sure.
I agree. and I agree, and I absolutely agree with everything that my fellow parliamentarians spoke before me. But one thing, not trying to, I'm using another one. One thing that gets to me is table.
Oh.
Table. You know how an argument goes on, and it's like his story versus her story, and then there's the truth. That's the way table works. Because somebody wants, when we say table, first of all, the correct term is lay on the table. Okay, we all know that. But the other thing is when it's misunderstood, people want to kill something, people want to postpone something, but they don't want to just do it for the real reason table is used. So, like I said, his story, her story, and then the truth. And table is one of them. And one thing we must do as leaders in our organization is ask for clarity. Ask for clarity. Leadership is a personal affair, and you can talk to your organization just as we're talking right here, and you can just, brother, what is your intent? Sister, what is your intent? To find out before we just say table and we're doing something that is going to do the wrong thing, because we never use that. We don't use the term correctly, and we don't exercise it correctly. So that's one of the ones that get me. But like I said, my other parliamentarians actually said some very, very great answers as well.
Absolutely. Tahir, what about you? What's one of the most common mistakes that you see, or one of the myths, parliamentary myths that you want to bust right now?
Oh, wow. You asked me 2 questions at once. Okay.
But either one is fine.
One of the most common things that comes across my desk as international parliamentarian is rules that are created or enforced that conflict with the bylaws or other adopted rules. And that causes conflict. So just from a leadership standpoint, it's important for leaders to remember that we are obligated to follow the same rules as our members. And even if we have a good reason to create a different rule, if it conflicts with what the body adopted, it violates the rights of members. So we must lead by example by seeking the correct process to change the rules that no longer suit us. So that will be the answer to that question. And then as far as a myth, the myth that parliamentary procedure is just rigid rules, I disagree. Parliamentary procedure is empowerment. When you understand the rules of the parliamentary procedure, how to apply them, you are empowered to make the change. You fully understand that the members are in control, not the leaders. The members just have to learn how to use the power that they have following the correct procedures in Robert's Rules of Order, and of course the bylaws and other governing documents. Thank you.
Ooh, that was good. I hope y'all enjoyed that answer as much as I did. That was everything to hear. Thank you so much. Kenya, I'm coming to you next. Most common problem that you see that we haven't already talked about, or a parliamentary myth that you want to do away with right now?
Absolutely. From what I've seen a misunderstanding of what routine business is, and then questions of little importance as it relates to unanimous consent. One thing I think, and I know I'm talking to parliamentarians here. I know a lot of the individuals who are watching this particular town hall are also parliamentarians. But for those who aren't parliamentarians and for those who are interested in parliamentary procedure, unanimous consent is used by a presiding officer, and used in a fashion where, again, if it's routine business or questions of little importance. And usually what happens in that scenario is the presiding officer would state if there is no objection or without objection. And then there's a pause. Some presiding officers don't pause. They'll state the action that is to be taken and they won't pause. But there should be a pause. And the reason for that is to protect the rights of the minority if one objects to the action that is to be taken. So in many instances, I find that to be something that I've seen, and something that, definitely could use some level of instruction or correction. And in terms of the myths of parliamentary procedure, that it's unimportant. I think in many instances, individuals see a parliamentarian, and as someone stated earlier today, a parliamentarian should be a fly on the wall. You rarely hear from a parliamentarian if things are going well. So when things are going well, individuals think, well, what's the use of the parliamentarian? Why is that person there? But I think sometimes even in that, individuals may think that a parliamentary procedure is unimportant, but it isn't. It's used to empower the presiding officer. Oh no, another myth is that it's used to empower the presiding officer, which is the complete opposite. It's used to empower the assembly to make decisions of an organization effectively and efficiently. And it also limits the presiding officer's role and puts that person in its proper perspective as a facilitator. That's what a presiding officer is, a facilitator. It's the assembly that makes the decisions. So I think though that for me, that's one of the myths of parliamentary procedure.
All right, perfect. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we've reached a portion. I'm gonna unilaterally extend this by 15 minutes just because I lost track of time.
Hey, Vashika, can I reattack that question?
Yes, but give me 1 second. If
Okay.
you have a question that you want to ask, raise your virtual hand. I'm not looking in the chat, y'all. So if you have a question that you'd like to hear the parliamentarians answer, raise your virtual hand and we will call on you. So go ahead and think about what your question is. And then Tony, go ahead and tell us what you were getting ready to say.
Okay. Well, I see somebody said so moved in the chat. That's another one too. But
I know.
let me say
Look
what I
at
want to say.
everybody's face.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. But one thing that gets me too is, you know how when you're taking a vote and there's a resounding, all those in favor say aye, and there's a resounding aye. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and buy Tony Gray that purple Cadillac, right? But the no vote wasn't taken because it just sounds so overwhelming that everybody wants to do it. People miss the idea of taking that no vote. Taking that no vote means you gave everybody a right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do that, you are taking away their rights as members. And sometimes people let that go over their heads, but it's incumbent upon the presiding officers to preserve the rights of members. If there's two things that get my goat, one is violating your bylaws and violating the rights of members. And I am a stickler for taking that no vote because one person might want to say no. That's their right. Don't take that away. I just want to make.
And Ms. Wanda, I saw your hand up. So before we go to the questions, you want to jump in here?
Yes, real quick. If we can get rid of abstentions and friendly amendments, that's all I'm going to put out here. If we can get rid of those, hopefully in the next edition of Roberts will be fantastic. But those two, we need to get rid of.
Absolutely. I'm sick of so-called friendly amendments.
Yep.
All right, so now we're gonna go to our first audience question. Petra Brady, hello there. What is your question here? Let us give you the ability to unmute first. Uh-oh, where did you go? She left. Where did she go? Somebody find Miss Petra for me. Don't take your hand down, Miss Petra. Put it back up for me.
There she is, Madam Parliamentarian. She is there.
Okay.
Petra Brady.
Will you unmute Miss Petra for me?
No, it's Petra. Thank you. Thank you
Oh, there
very
we go.
much, Laura Fashika. I'm Petra Brady. I'm the parliamentarian for the SF Bay NPHC chapter. And I really appreciate listening to everyone this evening. There was a slight mention earlier about not being emotional. I'd like to hear more discussion about that, and in particular, how to handle when we have members that simply go rogue. With the bylaws have been changed and you're trying to change them back, and it gets very emotional. I'd like to know the best ways to handle that.
Okay. Well, listen, Martha Beard, how do we deal with these emotional members? What are we supposed to do?
That's really difficult because a lot of times emotional members can be intimidating. When they do start saying things, it's important to say, member so and so, your behavior is out of order. Not you're out of order, but the way you're presenting yourself before the body is out of order. And then move on from there, because I don't believe it's good to get into a debate in front of the whole group. I think it's just best to let them know that their behavior is out of order and then move on. And I know that this may also require some discussion with the member outside of the meeting, because you don't want to get into a full debate in front of everybody. But after the meeting, I would make it a point to talk to that member privately.
Perfect. Adrian, what about you? What's some tips on how to deal with the emotion that may come up in a meeting or while they're participating in debate, and how should a presiding officer handle that?
Well, I think establishing clear rules on the front end can help, but we have to remember that organizations are composed of people, and people aren't perfect, so our organizations aren't perfect. This is democracy. If we wanted efficiency, we would elect a dictator or a king or a queen. But having people skills, having empathy, really seeing the source of their frustration and helping them achieve what they want, which oftentimes can just be to speak or to point out something, you can help to diffuse the situation. I do think as parliamentarians, bringing it back to us, our role isn't to be the sergeant at arms. Our role isn't to be the referee. It's not to make anyone do anything, but to advise individuals on what their rights are. And, it's been said several times to put in the work on the front end so that those issues don't blow up in a meeting. But, this is part of the territory that those instances will happen.
Yeah. And Fashika, I should clarify,
Yes,
it would
ma'am.
not be something that the parliamentarian would do at the meeting, but hopefully these are some of the conversations you've had with the presiding officer in advance. Should this happen, this is what, is recommended for you to do, but it would not be the parliamentarian speaking at all during the situation at hand.
Yes, ma'am. Next hand I see is Imani Kumba, Omega Psi Phi. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. I am the boss list for my chapter in Northern California, Delta Iota. So I'm a residing officer. So the question I have is, other than advising the residing officer when asked, can the parliamentarian interject when things are not proper in procedures?
Let's see, parliamentarians. Who wants to go first?
I go first.
Okay. I knew it was gonna be you.
Go ahead, Freddie.
I go first.
I was trying to beat you, Freddie. Go ahead.
I know you were. When you see things are going awry, first thing you must have patience, and you still got to advise the chair on as discreetly as possible how to proceed with this matter, and hope that the presiding officer is a good listener and will understand how to proceed with this.
Yes, sir.
To answer
Tony,
your
what
question,
else?
sir.
Tony, what else?
Yes, I'll take more answers, but yes, thank you.
Okay,
yeah, I'm good.
one thing I would recommend is try to discreetly have a stand at ease card that the presiding officer can see, so that he or she can say for everyone to stand at ease, and you quickly let them know some things that are going awry and what needs to be done to correct it.
Okay. Tony, anything on that?
I think the parliamentarians put it very well. I just think I'd like to add, just make sure, like what was mentioned earlier, somebody mentioned parliamentarian being in the vicinity of the presiding officer so they can get their attention to make all this happen. Otherwise, the other answers were great. Just to emphasize that point so that
Thank you so much. I'm gonna go to the next hand. We're gonna predetermine. I'm gonna go Elliot, Miss Linda, and then Kenya on this one. Let's see what we got. Let's see what the question is now. Monica Miller, what's your question?
Thank you, Sora Fashika. Just wanted to know, and I'm sure this doesn't happen to anyone on this Zoom, what do you do, or how do you handle someone who wishes to use Robert's Rules of Order or even the bylaws as a weapon to weaponize the Robert's Rules?
Ooh, Elliot, what are your thoughts on that? Using it as a weapon, using the bylaws as a weapon. That's an interesting way to phrase that. What do you think?
Yeah, and we're seeing it more and more now in our organizations as people get, just a little bit familiar with Roberts. They start to try to weaponize it in their meetings. And we got to remember that, parliamentary law is not about rules, it's about respect, right? Respect for each other, respect for the founders of our organizations, and respect for the democratic process, right? That's what we got to make sure that everybody understands. Our members are very passionate, but we got to make sure that that passion is coupled with procedure. And when that happens, then our meetings will, again, not be chaotic, but have clear governance. So it was a great question.
Perfect. Miss Linda, what about you? How do we deal with people who weaponize what they know or what they think they know?
Yeah, that's a very difficult. It goes back to how do we deal with unruly, members. But, we have to keep in mind too that parliamentary procedure only works when members engage with, with integrity and mutual respect. So you can't control human behavior. You can only control those things that you do. So you got to tread that path clear, cautiously. because like I said, you can't control other actions, but you can control yours. And you can just make sure that you can bring the meeting back to a place where, excuse me, bring it back to a place where we are now content. But it is a difficult thing when you're dealing with people.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Kenya, I want to deal with the second part of her question, or the second question that she asked. Is there a such thing as weaponizing bylaws? Should members not insist that their chapters and their councils follow their bylaws? Tell me your thoughts on weaponizing bylaws.
In terms of weaponizing bylaws, I think if that is a term, I think members might not understand their bylaws because bylaws aren't governing documents that were passed by a body to be weaponized. You know, George Demeter, you know, I study some things. So George Demeter has a quote, and I find it very interesting. He said, "There is nothing more pitiable than one who is ignorant to parliamentary law trying to preside over an assembly. The more intelligent the assembly, the sadder the spectacle." But that's with intelligence. So when you think about individuals who are looking to weaponize bylaws, they're looking to do so to promote their own agenda. So when you think about agendas and what individuals would like to see within their organizations, especially as it relates to agendas, I think it's incumbent on a presiding officer to conduct the business of the assembly in a legitimate fashion, in a legitimate manner. And that's by educating the membership as to whatever that particular member is looking to weaponize. Because one thing, again, a presiding officer is a facilitator. We're all learning. So especially when we have our chapter meetings, our regional meetings, our annual meetings, whether that's a convention or conclave or whatever it's named by your organization, but you have younger members who are members of your organization. And unfortunately, there might be some of the more seasoned members of your organization that are just passing on bad habits. But if you have a strong presiding officer who points those things out and it becomes a teachable moment, then the weaponization, in my opinion, wouldn't be weaponization.
Perfect. That was very well said. I really only have time to take one more question, and we're coming to Tahir and then Wanda with this last question. Let me unmute Dr. Jacqueline May, professional registered parliamentarian. Hey, Miss Jackie, how are you?
Hey, how you? How you?
I'm good.
So I'm interested to know from my fellow parliamentarians, how do you resist the urge as a member of your organization not to speak in debate, especially when those members are being dilatory in the meeting? How do you resist that urge to sit and be quiet and pass that little sticky note to your presiding officer to say, tell them to go somewhere and sit down?
Well, Tahir, you're a member, you have concerns too. How do you manage to not jump in there and get in the mix?
Self-control is very important, and trying to separate the emotional reaction from my role as the parliamentarian. And then discreet communication with the chair, even to advise this member's actions are dilatory, just giving her a note, giving her a motion, or having your scripts ready and give her a script to say, hey, read this script. This would be appropriate in this situation to help redirect the debate and get it back on track. But yes, we do have to be neutral and have self-control. The biggest thing that I struggle with is my facial expressions. That I don't know. There's nothing in Robert's rules about that, because I just have to practice in front of the mirror. But yes, that's the feedback I have for that question.
Thank you, Tahir. Miss Wanda, you're a member in good standing. You feel some kind of way. How do you stop yourself from participating in the debate when you have a concern?
It's all in the hands of the presiding officer. I mean, we have to look at our rules, our meeting decorum, as some of this was already stated earlier, but we have to go back to the respect of our organizations. When we're in meetings, we are there to handle the business. And so when you are coming or thinking you weaponizing, going back to that other question, it's the body that makes the final decision. One individual coming and trying to be disruptive, that is not going to fly. It's the majority of the body who makes the decision. If we have one member that's being disruptive, what happens? The presiding officer should be well diverse enough to say that this motion is not in order, that thank you, Sorrel, or thank you, whoever, and just move on. You have to be able to move the agenda forward, because otherwise you're sitting there holding up the meeting, holding up everything that needs to take place, move the meeting forward, and it takes a strong presiding officer to make that happen. So a lot of times it's not that one individual, it's the members that need to take control, along with the strong presiding officer needs to control the environment.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue into our next comment. Y'all start looking for Mona Calhoun. She should be get ready to roll into Mona Calhoun. The importance, if you don't take anything away from this, whether you're a presiding officer or a member of an organization, it starts with education. If you learned today that it is the members who should be making the decisions and not, say, your president or your so-called executive committee or board, then you need to do something with your education. If you are a presiding officer and you thought your vision was the first thing you should be concerned about, there are some things you need to work with as far as parliamentary education. If you don't understand how to process or read or understand bylaws, there are some educational things that you really want to invest in. And to that end, I would like to bring back President Mona Calhoun of the National Association of Parliamentarians, and she'll be able to give you some advice and some insight on just how you can continue and further your parliamentary education. President Calhoun, are you still on?
I am. And I just want to say this has just been an absolutely wonderful evening, listening to all of these parliamentarians give their guidance and advice. And I was trying to follow the chat. It was everyone was really loving it. If you want more, if you want to learn more about parliamentary procedure, if you want to become credentialed, if you want resources, books, if you want on-demand webinars, please visit parliamentarians.org. We have the resources you need to expand on your parliamentary knowledge. As many of our panelists have said, they had mentors. Those mentors started in NAP and they went on to mentor them. So talk to your national parliamentarians, your regional parliamentarian, your district parliamentarian, whatever level of parliamentarian that you have access to. And if no one else you can reach anybody else, please reach out to me, President Calhoun at nap2.org. That's President Calhoun at nap.org. I will be happy to talk with you and help you along your parliamentary journey. But this was great. Now, I do want to say something real quick.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
abstentions, Wanda, is gone. If you look in Roberts, you don't even have to advise your presiding officers, don't ask for extensions because they mean nothing. And also advise them not to do friendly amendments because you still have to put it before the body. So just advise them. It's already in there. Thank you all.
Listen, this is the president of all parliamentarians just told you what it was when it came to abstentions and friendly amendments. So please take that out of your lexicon. Please take that out. And thank you again, President Calhoun. You'll notice that the parliamentarians today seem to know each other and are familiar with each other, and that is because 8 out of the 9 of them are members of the National Association of Parliamentarians. Those credentials behind their name, that is where they get them from. We also have a sister organization, the American Institute of Parliamentarians. But please go to parliamentarians.org and take a look around. Find a unit to join. A unit is like a local chapter that you can join. I personally am in 4, 5, 6 units. You can join as many as you would like. One of my favorite units, and hopefully someone is going to drop something in the chat for me, is getting ready to begin a parliamentary procedure study group. If you feel like if this got you fired up and you're ready to go, please be aware of the chat and look for the flyer for that. It's called the Kanuni unit. I pick a unit called Green Gavel because they have outstanding educational programs. I'm also in the Sounding Block unit in Dallas, Texas, because they have some of the most fabulous parliamentarians you ever did see. So I hope but the point is there is a place for you. There's an environment, a safe space for you to learn and grow as parliamentarians. Um, Find us on social media. We're all over it. Find the National Association of Parliamentarians. Find the Electronic Association of Parliamentarians. Type in the name of your state wherever you are, and then Association of Parliamentarians, and you will find one in your area. So we encourage you all to please continue in your parliamentary journey. And before we sign off, each of our parliamentarians in founding order, give us one thing on your way out the door that you want everyone to hear about the importance of parliamentary procedure before we go. Adrian, we'll start with you. Some quick that you want everybody to keep in mind about parliamentary procedure.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you all for engaging. I'll leave you with the importance of special rules. Robert's Rules of Order, like any parliamentary authority, is a set of defaults. It's up to you and your organization to modify those rules as appropriate for your organization. So just don't take the standard. Really look closely at your rules, look closely at the parliamentary authority, and write rules that you want to follow.
Thank you. Martha, one last thing, if you can impress upon everyone about the importance of parliamentary procedure, what would it be? Uh-oh, you're on mute. Hold on, let me get you off mute. There you go. You see it?
My advice would be that if you want to have efficient meetings, you need to have a basic knowledge of parliamentary procedure. And I promise you that a 4-hour meeting will be reduced to an hour and a half or 2.
Yes, ma'am. There is no such thing as an efficient meeting if you're not using parliamentary procedure. Who are we? Tony, one thing you want to leave us with on the way out.
I always got a lot to say sometimes.
I know.
Well, Freddie, my man. Hey, I've already said it before. First of all, understanding what parliamentary procedure is for efficiency and effectiveness in your meetings, right? There's an answer in parliamentary procedure for every question that you have. If Robert's Rules doesn't have it, you can put it in your bylaws. You can put it in your standing rules. There's an answer everywhere in parliamentary procedure. So just remember, there's always an answer. If the answer is not in Roberts, you can make the answer up. Just make it official. And bruhs, hit me up, 719-351-3813.
What? Okay. That's interesting. Mr. Colston, Mr. Freddie, I know you got something good for us. One last thing, you want to let everybody know about the importance of parliamentary procedure.
Learn about how to take correct minutes and learn in detail about the minutes approval committee and learn how to take correct minutes. That's what advice I would give you.
Absolutely. Those of you who serve as secretary, Robert's Rules of Order tells you exactly what should be found in the content of your minutes. Please go and look at it. Miss Wanda, on our way out, what is one thing you want to impress upon everyone about the importance of parliamentary procedure?
Everyone has the right to be heard as well as their rights protected. I'll leave them with that.
Oh, that's good. Good. Elliot, what about you? What's one thing you want to impress upon everyone before we go?
Normalize parliamentary education. It's truly leadership development. We need to make sure that we institutionalize this knowledge. It's not secret. We're not Jedi Knights that have all the secrets in the universe. We need to make sure that we treat this as a governance and a shared responsibility of all. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Linda, what about you? What's one thing you want to impress upon us before we go?
That parliamentary procedure is our friend. It helps our members feel welcome. They feel like they belong, that their voices matter. And we need our members if we're going to continue this legacy of well over 100 years for all of us.
Yes, ma'am. Tahir, what about you? What's important for us to remember on our way out?
Parliamentary procedure is not just for leaders or for parliamentarians, it is for every member. Don't wait until you become a leader to start learning it. Learn it as a member. And if you are overwhelmed by the size of RONR, start with Robert's Rules of Order in brief. This yellow book right here, I don't know if you can see it. Start with this. This gives you almost everything you need to get started, and it has references in RONR for further explanation.
Absolutely. That's a good point to hear. Listen, don't wait till the stuff hit the fan to start trying to study parliamentary procedure. You got to get out in front of it. Kenya, what's one last thing you want to impress upon everyone before we have to get out of here?
Equality.
Hmm.
There are 5 principles of parliamentary law. One is order, the other is equality, the other is justice, the other is the right of the minority to be heard on all questions, and the right of the majority to rule the organization. I think parliamentary procedure, parliamentary law, fosters equality, which strengthens governance, whether at the undergraduate level, the grad level, regional, national, and throughout the NPHC. Equality furthers our respective legacies of our organizations and the Divine Nine as a whole. And as the NPHC in its branding always promotes, we are stronger together.
Oh, that's perfect. Perfect. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those of you in attendance, please clap for these fantastic, magnificent, fabulous, wonderful, outstanding members of the talented 10th that we call our national, general, international parliamentarians. They do a yeoman's work. Um, our organizations are so much better because we have these 9 individuals who are a part of them and are leading the way in parliamentary education. It has been an honor and a pleasure to chat with y'all this evening. Thank you also, President Mona Calhoun of the National Association of Parliamentarians. I hope this group did you proud, baby. Some of the best parliamentarians in the world have been featured here today. And then before we close out, I'm going to bring back, first of all, if there are any members of the the Council of Presidents who would like to have final words. Madam Secretary, are there any COP members still on that want to provide final words, final remarks?
I think most of them have dropped off already, Madam Parliamentarian.
Okay. And then finally, we will have Kenneth Webb, the NPHC National Program Chair, who was my supervisor in all of this, trying to get this program pulled together. Mr. Program Chair, you have any closing remarks for us?
Yes, thank you. Kudos to this great panel. Thank you, Madam Vashika, parliamentarian, for your vision for this great work. Thank you to our audience, our Divine Nine family and friends participating. We had over 800 people tuned in, 500 plus on this Zoom, and 300 plus in the YouTube. So thank you to all of this. And as questions asked, we will return. This is just part 1 of a series that will occur. I'm putting Madam Fashika on blast here. Small group work is in heading, but thank you all again tonight. Back to you, Fashika.
Thank you, Ken. And that's news to the 9 of them. Did you see their faces when you said that? But no, I want to thank the 9 of you again. You all have made history. I do believe this is the first time in the history of the D9 that the 9 people in these positions have come together and kind of hosted such a panel. So thank you all for making history. It has been a pleasure. At this time, Ken, we are ready to end the live. And those of you who are here, we bid you adieu. until you see your national, general, or international parliamentarians again. Please walk up to them at the conferences and tell them that you saw this, and do all the things and reach out to them. But thank you all so, so much for being here. And if by chance we are able to get this group together again, we will certainly let you know. But thank y'all so much and have a good evening. Parliamentarians, if y'all could stay, and you too, President Calhoun, but everyone else, and of course we need the board and the AC, but everyone else, you are dismissed at this time.
I hope I see y'all in Birmingham in
Yes, sir.
August.
Hold on, Mr. Freddie. Can end the recording for me real quick. But yes, I will be in Birmingham, Mr. Freddie. Any of the other of you will be there? Tony. Okay.
No, I will not be there.
No.
We have our Eastern Regional Conference is the same time.
Aww.
Yeah.
it is?
No, I'll be in Birmingham, and I'm also in Birmingham now for our Southeastern Regional Conference.
Oh, wow.
I want some catfish.
Some catfish.
Okay. So, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
So, no, thank y'all so much. President Calhoun, are you still there? Thank you so much.
I'm here. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Here and for doing this. The nine of you don't know, I call President Calhoun first because this has been an idea in the back of my mind for quite some time, but I needed to figure out logistically what was the best way to kind of go about getting y'all together. And so I, kind of brainstormed with her over the phone, and she gave me some really sound and sage advice on how to pull this off. It was not easy.